Today we're going to cover section 8.5, and as I had you copying down the core concepts, I also asked you to write down the quadratic as a vertex form and standard form. Standard form is usually the easiest. What's the standard form? Good. All of you guys should know that. Okay, we just covered vertex form. What's vertex form?
A parentheses x minus h plus parentheses squared plus k.
Good. And each one has its positives and its negatives. Very positive with vertex forms. You know what the axis of symmetry is, but even the vertex, you know what the vertex, which is h and k. Okay, axis of symmetry is x equals h. That's axis of symmetry. Standard form also, the easiest thing here in standard form is the y-intercept, which is c. So the y-intercept is c. And you also know the axis of symmetry because of a formula that you need to memorize, which is x equals negative b over 2a. Very good. Okay, so today we are covering a new form of this, and this is called intercept form. It is this one here, where P and Q are your intercepts, your x-intercepts. The axis of symmetry is logic. So let's think about this. If I know this point here, one of the intercepts, and then I know the other intercept, the axis of symmetry is smack down the middle. So how do you get smack down the middle of two numbers? You add them together and you divide by 2. So short of memorizing the formula, I want you to understand what it means. And this concept is in every single lesson. When A is positive, the graph goes up. When A is negative, the graph goes down. We have this new function, and we have to describe the domain and range. So when I look at things, I look immediately at what will make sense to me. What makes sense to me here is finding out what's A. So what's A in this problem? -1, which means that my graph is going to go where? Down. And I'm going to give myself a sketch so I don't forget. Now, since this is in which form? Intercept form. I know what my intercepts are. So what's P and what's Q? P is -1 and Q is +5. Now, I heard a lot of people say +1. No, remember, what numbers do I need to make this whole thing 0? Keep remembering that. That's -1 and that's +5. Describe the domain and range. So super easy. I know that it crosses at -1 and +5. I know that it faces down. Now, I already know what my domain is, which is all real numbers. Now, how do I find my range? Is this a maximum or a minimum point, first of all? This is a maximum. So in order to find my range, I need to find my highest point. How do I find my highest point in this graph? I have to find the axis of symmetry, which will lead me to the vertex. And of the vertex, is it the x or is it the y? It's the highest point, which is the y. The highest and the lowest points are always the y. Okay, so I know my axis of symmetry, or my x, is opposite of b over 2a. I could do that from our previous lesson, or you can add these two together and divide it by 2. Two different ways now of finding the axis of symmetry. This was the older way. This is the one you're learning today. So what is my axis of symmetry? 2. So x equals 2. X equals 2. So now I have to find my y. And what do I do to find my y? Plug it in. Negative 2 plus 1 times 2 minus 5. Y equals negative 3 times negative 3, which equals 9. Oh yeah, that makes sense all the way up here. So my range now is y is less than or equal to 9. Very good. Example, and it is not in intercept form. Let me get it in intercept form, and I get it in intercept form by factoring. So let's do that. GCF 2. What's left? Minus 4. Oh my goodness, I recognize that. That is a dots problem. Thank you so much for forcing me how to recognize dots, which is going to be? Oh, that is now in which form? Intercept form. Yay! Okay, what's A here? 2, which means that it faces up. Okay, what are my intercepts? 2 and negative 2. So right away, I know that at 2 and negative 2, there is this, and it's facing up. Well, just by knowing this, I already know my axis of symmetry. What's my axis of symmetry? 0. I already know that x is 0. So how do I find my, is this a maximum or minimum? Minimum. How do I find my lowest point? Plug it in. Y equals 2 times 0 minus 8. I didn't even need to do that because it's also my C. Very good. It's also my y-intercept, which is negative 8. So now I know my domain. My domain is all real numbers. Range is y is greater than or equal to negative 8. I find the zeros for this, and we find the zeros by my favorite F word, which is factoring. So what is it? It's actually negative 2. Remember, if the function starts with a negative, you might want to put a note. If the function starts with a negative, you got to factor that out. So what's left?
X squared plus 9x
Plus 6. Good. Now I'm going to factor this one, and since you guys are in honors class and I want you to do this in your head, what two numbers do I multiply to make positive 6? And then when I add them, it makes 5. There's no negatives there, so I don't see a negative. So what two numbers are they? 3 and 2. So 2 and 3. Okay, so what are my zeros here? Negative 2 and negative 3. Okay, let's do this one. Is this fully factored? No. Is this part fully factored? Yes, so bring it down. What is this factor to? Dots, so it is x plus 4, x minus 4. What are my zeros? 1, negative 4, and 4. There's 3 of them. It's a cubic. Okay, so we have to write a function in standard form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c, and I am only given the vertex. Since I am only given the vertex, of the 3 choices of the different forms that you know, and you're only given the vertex, that means which one should you use? Vertex form. So, vertex form is y equals a parentheses x minus h quantity squared plus k. Oh, I know that this one is h, and I know this one is k. So y equals a parentheses x plus 3 quantity squared plus 4. Now, this is still in vertex form. I don't want it in vertex form. I want it in standard form. So what do you think I'm going to do to this? we're going to do the opposite of factoring. We're going to multiply it out. Now, a in this case, we're just going to assume that a is 1. In fact, even for going into algebra 2, we're going to just assume that a is 1, so we don't need to put that. So let's multiply this one out. X, I'll write it again here. X plus 3 quantity squared plus 4. Okay, this is a perfect trinomial square, or square trinomial. When I multiply it out, it comes out to be x squared plus 6x plus 9 plus 4. I collect like terms. X squared plus 6x plus 13. So essentially what you're doing is you're going backwards. Instead of having the formula to begin with, you only have parts of the graph that we're telling you. And because of parts of those graphs, you have to now figure out, okay, I have this clue, which is the vertex, so let's use vertex form. Oh, I have this clue, which after we graph this, you'll see what it is. Which form do we use? So I'm going to just continue with this one. All right, let's graph. Okay, we're working on B now. So you already recognize that -9, 0, and -2, 0 are the intercepts because they're with 0. But now you have another point here, which is an x and y. Take a look. I have, almost everything figured out except for my a. So I want to figure out my a. It is not 1, like I told you in the vertex form. We're going to figure it out because it gives you a third point. So I already know that y is 20. I'm going to plug that in. 20. I don't know a yet, so I'm going to leave it as a. But I do know what x is in this problem. X in this problem is -4. So -4 plus 2 times -4 times 9. 20 equals a times, this is -2 times 5. So 20 equals -10a. That means a is going to be -2. Okay, so now a is -2. I figured that out. That has to be, that's super important. Okay, now I'm going to write it in standard form. I'm going to take this equation here. I already figured out a. I'm going to say y equals -2 times x plus 2 times x plus 9. I'm going to multiply it out. -2 times x squared plus 11x plus 18. I'm going to distribute the -2 in to make it -2x squared minus 22x minus 36.